Hey guys, it's your girl Vanessa. Welcome back to my channel and thank you guys all for tuning in again. So you guys, today I have 4 groups for you and I want you to choose one of the 4 groups intuitively, meditate on the cards for a minute, and then make sure you pick the right group for you. Your specific reading may be a mixture of 2 groups, maybe even 3 groups. So if you cannot make up your mind, make sure you tune into 2 readings just to get the right sort of mixture for you. So yeah, you guys, that was it for the intro. I want to get straight into the reading. Hey guys, and welcome to today's reading. So I want to get straight into it. This is group number 1. This is group number 2, group number 3, and group number 4. As usual, I would like you to pick with your intuition. Don't overthink it. Just go with that first sort of idea that you have. You guys, the timestamps will be down below, so once you've chosen your group, just scroll down into the description box and pick the group that you have chosen. That way you can fast forward straight to where your reading starts. So group number 1, you pick the ametrine, which is a mixture between a citrine and a amethyst. So this is a truly beautiful stone. So who is this card for? So I can see that you may be really indecisive, and this card especially resonates for Libras. So if you are a Libra, take this card very seriously. So I see that you may have been struggling with, deciding, making up your mind. I feel like you may have been pulled between 2 different poles, so to say. So maybe you're in a situation where you need to decide between 2 people in sort of like a relationship. It doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. It could even be a friendship where you need to make up your mind between 2 people. It could be that you need to make up your mind, as to what to do financially. Do you spend your money on this or that? And I see that right now you may be like really indecisive. And I see that next week it's important for you to know that you have a tendency to be indecisive for the next week. So look out for, decision making. Make sure that you don't postpone any decisions, because I see that you're kind of prone to that next week. And make sure that you remember that either way things are going to work out. So that's something that ametrine is trying to tell you. Also, another thing that I already mentioned is that ametrine is a mixture between 2 beautiful stones, citrine and the amethyst. So ametrine is here to tell you to embrace the in-between. I see that next week you're in sort of like an in-between. So in between a project, in between a venture, in between, like you're just feeling sort of like bleh and in between. But it's important for you to embrace the in-between. Don't knock it down. Don't see it as something negative. Make sure that you embrace every little bit of the journey, because one thing that I feel like a lot of people forget is that, every day counts. Like, you never know what may happen today or how your life may change forever today. So I see that next week you may be kind of like a bit stressed and anxious. I feel like you may be a bit more on the pessimistic side than usual. I see that maybe you're not going to be as positive as usual, just because, there are just a lot of things going on that aren't easy to overcome. So faith is here to tell you to stay calm and to trust in the good in yourself and also in others. So I see that, you may be kind of like skeptical of other people. Again, if you're a Libra, sort of like suspicious, or there may be someone who is making you question their real motives. So for next week, I want you to just trust in the good, trust in yourself, and also give others a little bit of trust. I can see that you may have been burned a few times by other people, and other people may have taken advantage of you, and now you're sort of on the defense. You have some walls up, and I see that it's important for you next week to see the light in the world, see the good in other people, and also see the good in you, and don't jump to conclusions too quickly. So alongside with like maybe stressing out way too much or being a bit anxious next week, I see that you may be jumping to conclusions or making like irrational decisions instead of making the ones that truly matter. So make sure that you like keep your cool and you stay balanced and just keep your calm. Then we have Serapis Bay Ascension. So I see that it's important for you to rise above any sort of darkness or any sort of negativity that may have been in your life, like right now or just not too long ago. So I see that you may have been in a dark spot. I see that, you know, things may have been sort of getting you down and you may have been feeling a little bit down and out. And for next week, it's important for you to focus on, you know, ascending from that sort of like dark spot that you're in and go into the light. I know this sounds really, really strange, but just like think of, you know, being in a well and sort of you were at the bottom of the well, but you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. You can see the light like above you. And what I see you needing to focus on next week is to just go towards the light and leave any sort of darkness, any sort of hole that you've been in, just leave that behind. Because I see that with decision making next week, either way things are going to turn out well. You just need to make the decisions. I see that the main hurdle next week for you may be to just make the decisions, but you just need to trust in the good of others and also trust in the good in yourself. And I see that ascension will follow. So that is what I see for you next week. Okay, so group number 2, you chose the Vanadinite. So this card, this crystal, is for anyone who is sort of lacking a little bit of self-discipline. So I feel like right now or in the last few months, you may have been lacking a little bit of self-discipline. You may have sort of been, you know, like not putting out the best work that you could. And I see that next week is, you know, the time for you to just break through those blocks, break through anything that is holding you back or like putting you in that place of not putting out the work that you should be. So next week, I really want you to focus on that. Also, living in the moment is something that I see that you may have not been doing quite enough. So remember to not think too much ahead or not think too much of what was in the past, because those are all things that you cannot influence. You can't influence the past, but you can learn from it and take wisdom from it. And also you can't really like influence the future if you're not in the now. The only way that you can influence your future and influence the outcome in the future is by you living in the now and doing things now. So if you know that you have work to do, if you know that you want to start this side hustle, live in the now and start in the now. Use your newly found self-discipline to work towards your goals and work towards the future that you imagine for yourself. So I see that it's important for you to make moves and have self-discipline. So make sure that next week you get out of this maybe like stagnant place that you've been in, or like this just moving at a glacial pace kind of, because I can see that you have a lot more in you. You have a lot more like drive and energy that would be amazing for you to make use of right now. So I see that next week is a great time for you to follow through with your intentions and to just amplify doing work. So that is something that I see for you. Then next we have Mercury, open communication. So I see that maybe you've been a little bit, maybe you've been lacking self-discipline because you haven't really been speaking up, or there's something somehow weighing on your chest or on your conscience that you need to get off. Otherwise, there's just this block, okay? I see for you, in order for you to break through these blocks and make the best out of next week, you need to speak up with love, and that way you're going to be heard. So make sure that you get this weight off of your chest and you communicate openly with anyone involved in, say, a project or a relationship that needs sort of patching up. I see that it's important for you to do that next week. So make sure that if there is something that is bugging you, if there is something that, you know, somebody else is doing that you're not really agreeing with, make sure that you speak to them. But be conscious of the words that you choose, because words are very powerful, as you know. They're a very powerful tool. So make sure that you use it for the highest good. Make sure that you use your words for the better, and, you know, that you're very gentle. So that is something that I see you needing to do next week. Openly communicate and make sure that you do everything with a lot of like love and also seeing the other person's viewpoint. I see that that's very important for you to see things from a different perspective. And I want you to say what's on your mind without worrying about what the other person will think, because if you communicate, you know, gently and with love, and you consider their point of view, it may very well be that they are in the wrong, and that person may sort of act hurt just because like they know they're in the wrong. Human beings don't like being in the wrong. So I see that it's important for you to just communicate openly and with love, and make sure that the energy that you're putting out is just, you know, one of positivity and clarity. However the other person would like to react is completely up to them. So as long as you know that you're communicating and spreading love for the highest good, that is what truly matters for you next week. Then we have Green Tara, Supreme Protection. So I see that you're divinely protected next week. I see that you need to move beyond the limitations that you thought you had. I see that you may sort of have limiting beliefs in your head where you feel like there's only so much you can reach or only so many changes that you can make to your life. And I see that you need to cut those cords. I see that next week you need to let go of a lot of these limiting beliefs and let go of that mental clutter, because it's really holding you back from the best you and you just living your best life. Don't forget that you are protected by the universe. As long as you are doing things for the highest good of everyone involved, you know, everything will turn out great for you. So make sure that you trust in the universe and that you're not afraid to move beyond what you thought was possible for you, because you can achieve anything that you can dream. People have done it many times in history, and you know, so can you. So trust in the universe and trust in the spirits, and make sure that whatever you do, whatever you say, wherever you go, you communicate lovingly, and also make sure that you move beyond what you thought were your limitations. So break through any sort of blocks that you thought were there and move out of your comfort zone next week. So that is something that I see that's very important for group number 2. Okay, so group number 3, you chose the Howlite. So the Howlite is here for minimalists living in a maximalist world, so to say. So, you know, I see that your headspace may be really cluttered from this busy world that we live in. I see that, you know, endless like DMs, things going on in your timeline, notifications. I see that this is all sort of chewing away at your presence and chewing away at your energy. So it's important for you to distance yourself a little more and remember that less is more. Another thing that I see is that you may have been sort of craving more material things, or you've been putting material things in like a very important position in your life right now, and I see that you've been giving material things a lot more meaning than they truly deserve. So next week is a time to really like ground yourself and come back to what is truly important. You know, don't let the material realm have too much of an effect on you. Don't let material things get more important than the spiritual world, because at the end of the day, if you don't live in the moment and you don't have gratitude for what it is that you have right now, you know, any more material things will not fix that problem. So make sure that you focus next week on being grateful for what you have and making the best of what you have. And don't compare yourself to other people. Don't compare yourself to like the constant buzz that's going on in this world and the constant buzz of social media. Make sure that next week you focus on being happy with yourself and happy with who you are, and just happy with the surroundings and all of the things that you do have. So don't look at what you don't have, focus on what you do have and be beyond grateful for it. And I see that that will attract more abundance into your life. But first of all, you need to start that next week, being grateful and building that foundation for abundance to come straight into your life. Then we have Mother Mary, Love and Peace. So I see that you may have sort of been feeling the need to be right all the time. I feel like maybe you've gotten into a feud with a family member or so, and it's important for you now to let go of being right, because once you let go of, you know, that feeling of needing to be right, once you let go of any sort of anger that you have, that is when you truly begin self-love, because holding any sort of resentment and anger is really just, the only person that it's truly hurting is you, and the only person that it's really negatively affecting is you. And often we forget that, and often we don't really notice how much harm we're doing to ourselves by being mad at somebody else, and you know, how much just negativity we're putting into our lives just because we can't let go of being right. So even if you know that you're right, just try and like put that aside and let go of that and focus on building your relationships and keeping them positive. Another thing that Mother Mary stands for is also like mother healing. So you may like miss your mother if she's not in your life anymore. You may have had like some sort of feud. You may have just not been feeling like 100% in regards to the mother figure in your life, and that doesn't need to be like your actual mom, like just whoever is that mother figure in your life. And now I see like next week I see is a time for deep healing and mother healing is possible. Make sure that you focus on that motherly connection that's in your life. Then we have Dharma unfolding. So remember that you're on a path and that you need to take one step at a time. So I see that you may be looking at this year and you may feel like you didn't accomplish as much as you wanted to, or you may be looking at 2019 and you may be feeling like, okay, I have so much that I want to accomplish. How am I possibly going to do this? So I see that next week you need to focus on shifting your mind to remembering that you're on a path and all you can do is take one step at a time. You can't skip any steps. So if you're going from A to B, you will have reached B with taking one step at a time. There is no way around that. And that is something that you need to keep in mind. And also what may be very encouraging, this is something that I usually like think of or rely on. I usually think to myself, so if I work every single day, 365 days of the year, if I do a little something every day to get closer to that goal, that means I will have gotten 365 steps closer in a year, which is really, really far. So take things one step a day, and remember that if you just do one step a day, in a week, that's already 7 steps. In a month's time, that's 30 steps. And in a year, that's 365. And by then, you may have even reached your goal. It's just important to take that one step at a time and to be consistent and persistent. So that is something that I see you needing to focus on next week in order for the future not to seem like a very intimidating picture. So focus on, you know, love and peace and taking one step at a time. Okay, so group number 4, we have the carnelian. So this is a truly beautiful fiery stone. If you are of a fire sign, this may be calling to you. So I see that it's important next week to focus on stimulating yourself in all areas of life. I see that you may have felt understimulated. I feel like you need like that interaction with your fears. I see that you need to get out of your comfort zone next week, and that you haven't gone out of your comfort zone in a while. Like you haven't properly been stimulated mentally, and I see that you may be a little bit bored with something in your life. So this may be multiple aspects. This may be one aspect of your life. So make sure that you look for ways to gain that sort of like creativity and passion. I feel like you haven't been dipping into your creativity as much as you could. And also I see that like your sex drive may be really low. I see that you need sort of like sprucing up in the sexual department as well as in your creative department. So it's important for you next week to focus on, you know, creating and do anything that sort of like sparks that passion up in you. So there may be like a hobby that you haven't been following through with for a long time. I see that maybe you loved to draw, you loved to sing, you loved to dance, you love to do something with numbers, and you haven't done that in a long time. You've sort of put it aside because life has just gotten like really busy, really stressful, work, school, whatever it is, and you've sort of like neglected your creative side and your creative passion. So next week is a time to dig that back up and get back into it. I see that that was sort of like an outlet for you, and you may not be as balanced as you could be just because that outlet isn't there anymore. You're unable to use that outlet because, you know, you've just put it aside. You've just sort of like forgotten about it. So I see that it's important for you to make use of the creativity that is truly within you and to bring that out next week. Then we have Master Buddha. So I see increased awareness as Master Buddha suggests. So it's important for you next week to go with your intuition and to trust your inner voice. I see that you have a very deep connection next week to the higher you, to your higher realms, and to the spiritual side of you. So whenever your intuition strikes and is telling you either to do something or to not do something, listen to your intuition, because I see the next week your intuition is going to guide you through the whole week, and it's going to be right. Your intuition is going to be there to, you know, serve the best possible outcome for you. But it's important for you to trust, and it's important for you to let it happen. So a lot of people always feel like intuition is just, oh, the first thought that springs to mind. But that is like, usually people connect that with a negative thing. However, that is intuition. It's not just the first thought. It's not just the first thing that came to mind. That is your intuition. That is the deep subconscious you giving you the answer to what you need to do next. So listen to that next week. Don't just write things off as, oh, it was just like my first idea, but it's probably stupid. Like, don't think that. Make sure that you trust your intuition and your intuitive voice and listen to it next week. Then we have Isis, magic manifesting. So I see that your dreams and your goals, everything that you're working so hard for, you're coming really, really close to making them real. I see that you're coming close to making something that you've always wanted a reality. So that could be either, you know, finding the right partner for you, or reaching that next level in your job or financially, or, you know, coming to a point where you're finishing off sort of like your education, or you're at a good standpoint where you wanted to be for a long time. So I see that it's important for you next week to stay focused, because as the carnelian already suggested, there may be a lot of distractions going on, and you may feel like you're not properly stimulated because maybe you've been having to do some sort of like repetitive work. So I see now is the time to stay focused. So even if things seem a little bit repetitive in your life right now, if you stay focused and if you keep manifesting and keep going towards your goal, I see you reaching sort of like a new height, a new level that is going to truly like awaken you and make you feel alive again. But it's important for you to stay focused and to keep taking those steps one by one towards your goal. And also just trust your intuition next week. I see that one of the most important things for you is to trust your intuition and to just stay focused. Keep going and keep fighting, but at the same time be very aware of the spiritual you and your deep connection to the universe. So listen to your intuition and stay focused.